All right, this is going to be my reaction video for the Ravens' 24-17 win over the Arizona Cardinals Sunday night. Look, there was a lot of opportunity out there tonight for the Ravens. For us as fans, but for the players, it was mostly for our second string guys. There were some cameo appearances, Justin Madubuike, Odafe Owe, and other guys that are that are starters or starter level guys in Madubuike's case. I'm gonna do some overall observations before we get to specific situations. This will be a little bit of an incomplete reaction video, to be honest with you. I'm not going to go in depth with the defense. I'll make observations about three players. Look, clearly Isaiah Likely is a star. I mean, maybe not an 80 catch per season star. So people that aren't Ravens fans listening to this video may say, well, that's ridiculous. He's not a star. He's a fourth round pick. He's a star among the guys who have played a lot during preseason games. You would be hard-pressed to find someone who's had a bigger impact in 2 games than Isaiah Likely has. And to be honest with you, he shouldn't play another snap in the preseason, in my opinion. Sit him out. We're good. We've seen enough. Isaiah Likely can play. How the hell he lasted to the 4th round, unbelievable. And anyone who saw the film of him from the Titans game knew that he could play. Well, apparently Sean Payton wasn't one of them, right? But we'll get to that later. Likely is a starter-level tight end on at least 6 or 8 teams in the NFL right now. I think last week, maybe a week and a half ago, I said the same thing, except I think I said 5 teams. That number's going up. My brain wants to say 10. You let me know what you think in the comment section. I feel like he's a starter for this team if we don't have Mark Andrews. I'll go one step further, and you may not like it. If he can do these things in the regular season, we may end up seeing Patrick Ricard pushed off the field a lot more than we can all imagine. And I like Pat Ricard. I think I love the career he's built as a two-way player in the NFL at one point, a unique player, two-time or three-time Pro Bowler. But Likely's impact is just more vivid. It's more bright. If this is what we're seeing on the practice field against our starting defense, the offensive staff has some work to do. Now, what I mean by that is to create or kind of recreate parts of the offense into like a 12 personnel situation where we have 2 tight ends, but neither one of them is really high level blockers. Likely's been a star. Fun to watch. And hopefully we don't get to see him again until week 1 at the Jets. But look, as good as he's been, Tyler Huntley has been lights out. He makes it look even easier. It just makes me continue to ask, and I'm sure you too, how did he go undrafted? It's always funny to me. People putting 21 and 22-year-old athletes in a neat little box because they were drafted in the 5th round or the 6th round. Or, Isaiah Likely's case, the 4th round. Or in Huntley's, completely undrafted. And he wasn't a finished product when he left Utah, 2019 or 2020, but he sure looks close to one now. I understand he's going against a mix of second-string guys, and I'm really commenting on the Titans and the Cardinals game, all right? I know he's going up against a mixture of second-string guys and then some guys who are maybe, fighting to make a roster, and maybe just like us, they've got some starter guys, D linemen playing some, but, we don't have any starting inside linebacker guys. Marcus Hamilton, Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, not touching the field. But Tyler Huntley is doing exactly what you would expect a starting quarterback in the NFL to do against preseason competition. Players who, if you took any starter, any quality starter in the NFL, and you supplanted them into an NFL preseason game and told them they were going to play 2 quarters, you would say they're playing against guys beneath their ability level. Well, I think Tyler Huntley's doing that. I mean, he was 13 for 14 tonight and made 2 huge plays with his legs early. I thought the offense struggled early, except for 2 plays, maybe first and second possession, except for 2 plays where Huntley was able to use his legs and find Isaiah Likely. 16 for 18 against the Titans, if I remember correct. I've got him at 29 for 32 passing. I mean, it's got to be above 90%, right? 27 for 30 is 90%, and then the next 2 passes would make him 29 for 32. So I'm guessing that's 92, 93%, maybe a little less than that. 3 incompletions across, I believe, 9 or 10 drives, if I did my math correctly. I know the yards per catch are low, but he's making all kinds of throws. He's a bona fide asset as a backup quarterback. The game really looks easy to him at this level, against this level of competition, especially after how he was, thrown into the fire in 2021. First in Chicago, and then the last 4 or 5 games of the season. But he was thrown into the fire in the playoffs in 2020 when Lamar got hurt, and Huntley had us moving down the field before, I believe, another turnover. But look, his decision making is sharp. He routinely escapes pressure. He's one of those guys that the first defensive lineman in the backfield doesn't get him. He finds the open man. That play thrown back across his body to Mekhi Polk was just classic athlete cute quarterback play. And I'm separating quarterbacks kind of. There's been great athletes who played quarterback for years, but it's just classic extend the play, running out here to the sideline. It looked like there was yards for him, and then he finds Mekhi Polk over the middle, just keeping his eyes up, looking for available receivers. I thought he was excellent, really composed, whether he saw pressure or not. Look, his arm strength might not be the strongest, okay? And I've heard disparaging things said about Tyler Huntley's arm strength, like dating back to, his 5-touchdown game against Washington a few years ago. But he can execute the offense, and he can get the job done. We are blessed to have a guy like Tyler Huntley for real. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section. Now, speaking of the offense, here's a general observation I have based on no data. Hey, maybe I can get a job with national sports media after giving you a take with no supporting data, huh? What do you think of that? Anyway, enough smartass. I think we've shown less than 15 to 20% of the offense so far. Actually, possibly as little as 10%. The offense was really conservative tonight. A lot of gap scheme runs, under center, and very little consistent production. For real, let's be honest. I mean, 26 carries for 75 yards on the game. Batty, McCrary, Davis, each had like one good run apiece. When I say good run, like 7, 8, 9 yards, something like that. I didn't think Justice Hill had any space. We said in our, but getting back to the offense overall, we said in our Discord chat after the first possession it was very vanilla, and it remains so. It looked to me like we were trying to set up Arizona for a big play-action pass play later on, like something up top. In my experience, that's like third or fourth possession after you've established the run or you've just remained committed to it, even if you're not running the ball down their throat. Certainly later on in the game, there was a possession where we really did run the ball down their throat with I guess what you would call our third stringers against their third stringers. I thought we had designed play action passes to go up top, to go deep down the field 3 times in the first half. I think 2 of them were definitely with Huntley, maybe all 3. And I guess no one was open because Huntley would have to either pull the ball down and scramble or find a running back or someone underneath as a check down. Let me know what you think of my thought there. It seemed to me we were being overly conservative, and I actually have a little bit of a conspiracy theory here based off of that. Forgive the indulgence. Look, since the Ravens and Cardinals appear to have such a good relationship, that's well documented. I think they even mentioned it tonight. Think about the way Trace McSorley was signed from our practice squad. Happening in 2021. The Cardinals waited a couple of days to sign him because we might have needed him against the Bears with Lamar being sick. And then the agreement to wait to announce the trade of Marquise Brown for a first-round pick, that was all just context for what I'm talking about. What I mean is an arranged dance for I think the offense, both of them, the Ravens and the Cardinals, were very vanilla. The Cardinals, just so you know, are considered like an air raid team because of Cliff Kingsbury's background. He's an air raid guy. All right, it comes from like Mike Leach, his experience with Mike Leach. But tonight they were really just a generic 11 personnel spread team that showed very little adjustments as the game went on. I'm not criticizing their coaches in any way. I'm offering to you, I suspect that both staffs, maybe or organizations said, hey, we're going to keep things very vanilla. I'm not saying they showed each other what they're going to do, but both offenses were kind of focusing on certain things that I thought were obvious during the game, and I'm really only going to focus on the Ravens for this video. Under center run concepts, a lot of gap schemes, power and counter, and trying to set up a big play action bomb, and it just wasn't there. Huntley took the check down smartly, and in most cases he found Isaiah Likely open in a zone or open. The guy's a monster. I don't even know how they can call him a mini Andrews. I'm straight up with you. I think he's going to push Ricard or Boyle off the field. Let's put it this way: if you took Isaiah Likely, all of his opportunities you've gotten through the first 2 games, and you gave those opportunities to Ricard or Boyle, do they make those plays? No, they don't. They just do not. They're not that type of playmaker. good players, and I like them. I'm glad they're on the Ravens team, but I think he's going to push them off the field, and this offense could move, not for the entire game, but there could be possessions or parts of possessions where this offense moves somewhere that it really kind of hasn't been. And what I mean is, this march that Isaiah Likely's on, he's a playmaker. He's always done this. He's always done this. Where does it end? He was making these plays in minicamp, rookie minicamp. We heard about it. And then in training camp. And now here through 2 preseason games. He's gotten better in the second preseason game, apparently. Where does this march stop? If it doesn't stop and he keeps making plays like this in the regular season, this offense will move toward a 12 personnel situation, unfortunately, where neither tight end, Andrews nor Likely, is that high level of a blocker. So anyway, shifting gears slightly, I'm going to make a commentary, and I'm going to do this often during the regular season, so if you don't like it, my apologies, but I'm going to talk about the commentators and analysis. That's what I'm trying to do with this channel, trying to be professional about it, and so I'm intentionally noticing things that hopefully you are too, and if you're not, I'm pointing them out to you now. Sean Payton, what is his halftime comments about? I don't even know what he was trying to do. Was it an attempt at humor? He's talking about Isaiah Likely, and I tweeted it out during the game, and other people made comments. Here's part of his quote. He's likely to make the roster now, so he's trying to make a pun. He's likely to make the roster now, and a lot harder to get on your practice squad if that's what your plans were originally. What in the world is he talking about? And some people still think national sports commentators actually watch film or watch the games or know the personnel well in depth before covering the game. Let's phrase it this way. If Sean Payton saw Isaiah Likely against the Titans and didn't immediately recognize that he's a number 1 or number 2 tight end on almost every team in the NFL. If he's not a number 1, he's a number 2. And there's no chance he's on the practice squad. None. Then Sean Payton's on some serious, serious drugs. He clearly did absolutely zero pregame prep in terms of watching film. Because if he did watch film, he would have to notice Isaiah Likely's talent. Agree or disagree? I don't. He looked lost. And that quote stood out to me as just another example that national commentators that a lot of us pay attention to are a waste of our time. Waste of our time. The guys who don't put in the work and offer any real analysis. They're a waste of my time. Maybe you've got more time on your hands than I do. On the other hand, Greg Olsen did a great job. A great job. I thought of covering elements of the game that don't get talked about. Remember, I don't know if you noticed, his breakdown of the 2 climb routes that McSorley threw. It was a split screen thing where they showed McSorley throwing on the left and they showed the route being run on the right. One of them was versus man. The first one was versus man, and then the second one was against zone. The same route. Spectacular. Olsen identified it as the same route immediately as the play was finishing. To me, it's exactly what we want to see. I thought he was awesome. And in fact, he might have been too good because there was a shift. Once they started talking about Kyler Murray calling plays, and it started to become about that situation, whatever you want to call that situation, it seemed like a clown show to me. Olsen's overall analysis and focus became less consistent. He still had moments where it was awesome. And I think overall he's a big improvement over certain guys. He clearly does prep work. They even showed like 2 seconds of video where you saw a little bit of prep work that Olsen had done on a sheet of paper, on like a desk or something. So he clearly does preparation, personnel, formations, concepts the teams will use. Me personally, I like Olsen. I like James Lofton, because he doesn't have a whole lot of ego, and Lofton prepares and knows the teams as well. And then Tony Romo, who's, maybe Tony Romo's got a little bit more personality that's exaggerated, but those 3 actually analyze the game. They work the game and explain the techniques across multiple levels, not just the quarterback and wide receiver play. I thought Olsen was great until that whole Kyler Murray, play calling situation came up. It seemed like the focus in the booth, it's a preseason game, so you can do that, right? Kind of just fell off a cliff a little bit. Anyway, another example thing that I'm going to point out, about media stuff. Tom Rinaldi's interview with Lamar. Compare his interview. I think it's Tom Rinaldi. I sure hope I'm not saying the wrong name. Compare that to Sean Payton's ridiculous comments at halftime. the one that I already read to you, and then Peyton talking about Huntley's play might encourage Lamar to sign his contract sooner. Like, seriously, who gave that guy a microphone? Or who thinks it's a good idea to give him a microphone after tonight? For real. I don't know. Maybe you didn't see it. Maybe don't judge as harshly as I do. I actually have a little bit of experience with journalism, so be that as it may. I'm going to talk about Rinaldi. He mentioned that he had talked to Lamar via phone earlier in the week. And in case you don't know, here's how that works. A professional journalist will contact Lamar through the Ravens, okay? He'll contact Lamar and speak with him for 10 or 15 minutes during the week, just to get to know each other if they aren't already familiar, okay? And then the reporter, well, the good ones anyway, and the great ones, will give Lamar a preview of the questions to be asked. That soothes any anxiety for the player, for the athlete. And that allows the player time to create a solid answer and be prepared. Maybe they can even talk about potential answers, and the journalist or the reporter can talk about follow-up. That's journalism. That's journalism. It's just very rare these days, for real. It does exist at times. And I thought Rinaldi was respectful and courteous in his approach. He didn't try to push Lamar or ask him any weird or slick questions about the contract situation or not having an agent. It didn't seem like Rinaldi had an agenda there. It just seemed like he was being a person, a professional person, talking to another professional person. And I thought that was refreshing in light of how ridiculous Sean Payton was. And Rinaldi's first question, in fact, was very smart. Asked about Lamar's relationship and connection to Tyler Huntley, who for real, like, Huntley might not even be on the Ravens team were it not for that high school connection between Lamar and Huntley. If you don't know, Huntley's high school team beat Lamar's high school team in the playoffs. I think Lamar's senior year, maybe junior year, in the playoffs, like in the second or third round. So put him out of the playoffs. Anyway, I had to digress about the broadcast and the commentators, and you can expect me to do that, honestly, in these reaction videos throughout the season. So if you're an ESPN homer, or someone who wants to make excuses for guys like Sean Payton who do zero homework but just throw shit up against a wall, and you think it's cool that some of it sticks, just don't even watch my recaps, because you're going to hear it. You're going to hear a little bit of criticism and critique of those guys as well. All right, a little more actual football observations. Like I said, likely shouldn't play another snap in the preseason. The staff, I'm sure they have a plan going into each game about, workload, snap count for certain guys, but once somebody's putting on a show like that, you're like, okay, we knew this guy could play. We've seen it in camp. We've seen it against our defense, but now we're seeing it against other people randomly, random, people that we're facing. No matter who they're putting on the field, even when they know he's getting the ball down in the end zone, he still catches a touchdown. Once he's put on a show like that, somebody on the staff, in my opinion, has to be the bad guy. And you might not be able to tell, but I'm one of those guys when I've coached. You got to walk up, somebody has to walk up to the head coach and just openly state, like say it loud enough for other people to hear, not 20 people, but 4 or 5. Hey man, I think we need to get Isaiah off the field. He's too valuable to be playing right now. We need him in October and November, not late August. And that puts the head coach on the spot. He's either got to give up ground and cede to your request by taking him out and protecting the asset, or keep him in and risk him getting hurt. He gets hurt, and then you, unfortunately, as a coach or assistant coach in my case, then it makes you look good, but that's not really what it's about. What it's about is showing people that you are there to protect the assets you have. And there's another player, Travis Jones. I'm gonna get to that in a moment. That this relates to. We have Mark Andrews and we have Isaiah Likely at tight end. Then we have a huge drop off in tight end talent in terms of catching the ball and making an impact or making plays. And no one else out there is going to provide those things. So we got to protect him. And we got to put it out there verbally, or if it might have been the staff's plan already. But I was shocked when Likely came back on the field for that one play. It seemed like everyone knew he was getting the ball. They couldn't stop him. That's how I learned to approach it. That's how I was taught to approach it. Abruptly, off the cuff. Not rude, but direct eye contact with the coach. We need to get him off the field. And I've been there before myself. So relate that to Travis Jones. It is a little different because, look, Travis Jones is very talented, incredibly talented. He can play. He's a third-round, correct me if I'm wrong, third-round pick who has first-round talent. I damn near think we got 4 or 5 guys with first-round talent. I mean, you tell me how far off that is. I think Isaiah Likely has first-round talent. If it's not first round, it's borderline first round. Clearly, the 2 guys we got in the first round have first-round talent. Travis Jones, I think, is also debatable right there. But the situation isn't exactly the same with Travis Jones and Isaiah Likely. We have so much depth at D tackle and nose tackle. Someone has to be out there on the field in these preseason games. Like, we can't sign dudes off the street for preseason games. I guess we could, but then we got to figure out a way to pay them, and it becomes ridiculous. No matter who's out there, they can all play. Broderick Washington, Isaiah Mack, Jones. I think Matt Abike even got a cameo, like I mentioned earlier, and him and somebody else. It was another starting caliber D tackle out there, and they both looked dominant. We just got so much depth. Jones is one of those guys that unfortunately has to play snaps sometimes. Somebody has to. Somebody has to. With the tight end spot, we have way fewer productive guys, and no one wants to see Likely play another down in the preseason, for real. So that's the difference, if you ask me. It would still be appropriate for some coach or coaches to go up to Harbaugh and say, I don't want this guy to play another snap. But they're all so talented, and that's a blessing, really, for real. It is. To be a little more protective of Likely, I think, is just recognizing that we have less depth at tight end and less guys who can do the things that Mark Andrews and, to a lesser extent, Isaiah Likely can do. I hate to mention Isaiah Likely in a similar vein or similar capacity to Mark Andrews, but we've seen 2 games of it now. And we've seen him be effective with college film as well. I think he scored 12 or 13 touchdowns last year at Coastal Carolina. Okay, moving on. Running backs didn't find much space tonight, but look, Davis, Justice Hill, McCrary, they run hard. Davis and then Hill look like the best of what's available to me until Dobbins or Edwards are playing more. But McCrary can play. Batty can play. Those guys provide depth. I'm glad we got them all. I don't know what the practice squad situation is going to look like, for certain guys, depending on their contract. If you want to educate me some in the comment section, go ahead. Certainly there's guys that, we've got to protect. And if you're Sean Payton, I guess you think that, Isaiah Likely's on that borderline too. 2 of the stars from the Titans game, Mekhi Polk and Bridges, they had moments where they were effective tonight. Polk made the big play early over the middle, fell down, unfortunately. Looked like he was kind of surprised there was nobody around him. And then he drew a pass interference call, really, really cleanly beat the DB up the left side on his release. Obvious pass interference. Bridges had 1 catch on speed out, I believe, to the right sideline. Good catch, ball thrown up high, not too high, but thrown, in an area where he's the most likely guy to get it. And Bridges able to make the catch. Unfortunately, there was a go fade up the left sideline where the DB really ran a route for him. That's a way of saying, we would say that to DB's corners. Run a route for him. If he's running a go, run the route for him. Beat him in the route. And we were lucky it wasn't an interception. I think it was thrown by Huntley, but I could be wrong. Otherwise, the offense was really vanilla. I mean, there was Likely making plays, and really nothing else was required tonight. That's why I say to you, I think there's something strange to me about how conservative the offense was tonight. Maybe conspiracy theory was the wrong word. Gentleman's agreement. We're not going to show crazy stuff. We're not going to show, regardless of score and situation. I don't know what you think. You let me know in the comment section what you think. Almost wrapping this up. Really going to briefly cover defense. I'm not going to talk about most elements of the game. Just guys who played well. I want to do a follow up tomorrow after watching the defense more again. Pepe Williams is a rock. He's a people say nowadays they say he's a menace. When I was growing up, they said he's got game. He's just involved in everything. Plays good man coverage, smart, great eye discipline, good in zone. He was utilized as a blitzer tonight, at least twice. I thought there was a 2-play stretch that really shows you what Pepe Williams is capable of, and all indications from practice are that these skills are on display in practice as well. On a 2nd down, maybe Arizona's 3rd possession, maybe 4th, he covered a deep climb route from McBride, the 2nd-round tight end, who's a talented player. They got Zach Ertz too, but McBride is talented. So a 2nd down, he covered him, tight man coverage, ball right to left, climb route. Some people call it a skinny over route, whatever. I call it a climb route because it's different than over concept. But Williams all over him, and I think even Olsen mentioned pass interference. I was like, what? Not even close, man. That's great coverage. And then the very next play, they used Williams as a blitzer. And there was a D tackle, or maybe it was Jeremiah Moon, who flashed in the B gap, but Williams came off the edge. And I think he would even get credit for a QB pressure. I didn't look at the stats yet. Think about that. In those 2 plays, he's a baller, man. You can do anything with a guy like Pepe Williams. He could probably play outside corner. He could probably play safety. I really think he's going to be on the field for us at some point this season and surprise people. He's not going to surprise you guys or me, Ravens fans. He's not. But people who haven't seen him play are going to be surprised because he's going to cover someone on their team that they're going to be shocked that Pepe Williams can cover. I mean, he blanketed McBride, who's a second-round pick. Williams is just solid. Moving on, Owe was impressive. That's to be expected. I thought he got tripped up on the one time when it looked like, from the TV view, it looked like he was going to sack McSorley. I thought he ran into a teammate. Matabike was impressive in his cameo. One guy I have to point out that, I feel really wrong about is Josh Ross. Josh Ross, I hope it's not John Ross, but Ross. Inside linebacker from Michigan, team captain for them last year, and he was all over the place. Think of that play that they reviewed where they initially ruled it a touchdown run by McSorley. First of all, Jeremiah Moon did a great job on the running back, taking the running back, and then Ross just made a great challenge by the pylon. And I think it was the right call after the review that there was no touchdown there. Ross played great against the run. He had a run fit. Actually, might have been a stunt. Some people call it a blitz. Stunt and a blitz are slightly different things, but that's a topic for another day. He stopped a run play for a loss. It was a one-back power play. He covered up a zone well twice by letting a tight end pass through vertically and then taking the underneath route, which was the read progression that the quarterback was on. So he was challenged a little bit, and if you compare the way he covered in the past to the way Zacoby McClain did it, there's a huge difference, and I don't mean to denigrate Zacoby McClain. I really like him. Saw his film from Auburn last year, and I thought he had a chance to really have an impact in it. And from tonight's film, maybe McClain was injured. Maybe he's dealing with something. From tonight's film, Ross looked far and away better, which kind of surprised me. Ross on that 3rd and 19, where the running back beat Zacoby McClain and then broke a Kyle Hamilton tackle to convert a first down. Ross covers the tight end vertical in like a cover 2, if I saw it right. I don't have the end zone angle and all 22s yet, obviously. So I just was very impressed. Very impressed. I thought our guys were aggressive and competing. That's the thing that tonight really shows me. I think his Godspeed on my Twitter and in my Patreon is always talking about just the Ravens way and competing and how hard they compete. You saw evidence of that tonight. I'm going to go over a couple of examples. Brandon Stevens, the pass interference that was called on him up the right sideline. It was a good call. Right arm interference, on the sideline side, grabbing the shoulder or the shoulder pad, but the left arm making a great play simultaneously to knock the ball away. I thought Brandon Stevens was competing. He looked a little slower tonight than he had in the first game against the Titans, to me, but competing. Pepe Williams, the pass interference on him on that 3rd and goal was an egregious call. It was a terrible call. It would not be called on Jalen Ramsey. It wouldn't even be called on Ahmad Gardner at this point, who's a rookie, just like Pepe Williams. Just egregious. Like, he's just challenging. He's just competing. He didn't hold. He certainly didn't interfere, just made contact. And the NFL is moving towards this, really absurd level of preventing DBs from competing. It makes me sick to watch guys like Pepe Williams compete and get punished when offenses run BS pick or rub concepts all the time and make more abrupt and immediate contact with defenders, and it's completely legal. There's a real imbalance in what's allowed for the offense and what's called on the defense, and I'll never stop pointing it out. And I'll never stop telling people they're wrong, when they disagree. You may disagree about the amount of a hold that Pepe Williams had, but even think about the unsportsmanlike conduct call on us. I forget who it was early on the sideline. What is unsportsmanlike about that? I didn't see anything unsportsmanlike, at least on the replay. In my opinion, the further the NFL moves that line, the fabric of the game hasn't been ripped apart yet, but it's being stretched. It's being stretched. It's being stretched too far, and people who have a lot of experience with the game notice it, and it kind of makes us sick. All right, I'm going to leave you with this, and I will do a follow-up tomorrow about the defense. We haven't seen our most talented guys on the field yet that are starters, that have been around, veterans, and we haven't even seen some of our most talented guys that are rookies. Ojabo, Linderbaum, haven't even been on the field yet. Insane. Just insane. And I think that Likely and Huntley are clearly the 2 stars so far. They deserve to be talked about like that, but we just got so many good young players, and they're competing. I feel like, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree, I feel like we are better coached this year, especially defensively. Offensively, don't really know about because there's such a conservative approach so far. I do like the under center stuff a lot. I'm not sure if you do or don't. That's okay. But there's so much. There's so many markers, if you ask me, of well coached guys being coached well. And I'll give you an example. I don't think Anthony Brown was talked about as someone that a lot of teams wanted. I feel like absent that interception tonight, that Woolen, who made a great play on. He redirected he redirected one guy, pushed one receiver into the other, and then made an interception. So bad decision by Anthony Brown, bad throw, great play by the linebacker. But I don't remember anyone really talking about Anthony Brown. He's a guy who's executed our offense extremely well in the first 2 weeks. I feel like the coaching level has improved, and I don't know why that is. I'm mostly talking about the defense, but I'm pointing out Anthony Brown as an example of the offense. I feel like our receivers, our young receivers are doing a better job, and we haven't seen Bateman. We haven't seen Duvernay. We haven't seen Prochet. Demarcus Robinson just signed. We obviously haven't seen him. I don't know about you, but I'm just looking forward to seeing. Well, I'm really looking forward to the preseason to be over with. Get this final preseason game over with, and we can get to some games that matter. There's a lot that I didn't cover, in a 30-minute video. So, my apologies for that. I didn't talk about Stout's unbelievable punting. I didn't talk about the O-line at all. I'll really wait to do that. I think Saturday morning I'm going to do a live stream on the offensive line, all end zone angle film if I can get it. And then I haven't talked about Kyle Hamilton, who has played a lot, and I think that's the plan. And he's shown a lot of good things. He's had some moments where tackling's been an issue as well. Made a play down the end zone tonight, though, jumping up. Looked like he was about 10 feet high. Very rare for a safety to be able to do that. Unique player. I really, really think that the overall plan, the way things are proceeding for this team is very solid, very astute and professional. I'm not, I don't even know what they call those people who support everything the Ravens do no matter what. I can't remember what it's called. Let me know in the comment section. But I'm certainly not one of those people because I'm very critical of, players, even my favorite player, Lamar Jackson at times. But I think the plan and the path is very direct. We get through this last preseason game, and I think we have the opportunity to really, really have something very special, especially once a lot of our guys get back. Tonight was encouraging and fun to watch. Let me know what you think in the comment section of my thoughts, how you think I might be able to do a better follow-up video, tomorrow or in the next couple of days. And look for that live stream on the offensive line, utilizing film from the Titans and the Cardinals game early on Saturday morning. Appreciate you guys checking the video out. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so now.